Hey everyone, today we're going to learn about Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. As I'm reviewing this book, it's going to be the first one in the Start to Success members area in this book learning section. Now maybe it won't always remain in that spot, but there's a reason I'm putting this one up first. Just like the Start to Success formula course started with cultivating the right mental attitude towards our future business, this book is so powerful and can help you create the right mental state for life in general. I think it's almost impossible to overestimate the power that our minds have to consciously change our lives for the better, even when we're in tough circumstances. So obviously this book is near and dear to my heart, and I really hope you can learn a lot from it. All right, let's start with a quote from Tony. Quality questions create a quality life. More specifically, in the book, he says, I realized that the main difference between the people who seemed to be successful in any area and those who weren't was that successful people asked better questions, and as a result, they got better answers. He goes on to say that this is one of the most important concepts in the book, which, by the way, is over 500 pages long and dense, so that's saying something. I'll take one step back from this quote that he has, and I'll say that questions create a better life. I say this because, like anything in a life, practice makes better, or perfect, whichever you prefer. And you have to start somewhere. After a lot of practice, I've gotten to the point where I actively question and challenge everything that I do at one point or another. Now, obviously, this can be taken too far, but if you really analyze how you spend your time, for example, you may find that you waste it doing things just because you're used to doing those things, and they don't really serve a purpose anymore. The fact that you're here makes me think that you already ask some questions like this, like, how can I improve my life? That's a pretty big one, though, so we can break it down into specific, empowering questions like, why do I get so upset with my wife when she asks me what I'm doing this weekend? Or, why do I always get drunk when I hang out with Joe? Or, why do I go to church every Sunday? If we start by asking ourselves questions like this, we can discover many things that we just do out of habit, and we really don't want to anymore. We can also realize why some of the things that we do are so important to us, and we should focus on them even more. But just this act of challenging ourselves is, 1, humbling, and 2, effective at creating a more purposeful and enjoyable life. It's amazing what I've accomplished just by challenging why I think what I think and do what I do. It's either driven by evolution or programming. That's about it. And you all know what I think about today's programming. That's why this business, courses, and community exist in the first place. So don't be afraid of what you might find by asking these questions. Be afraid of what you may be ignorant to for the rest of your life if you don't. Then, once we've gotten really good at asking ourselves questions, it seems a lot easier to communicate and ask other people questions as well. Okay, that was quite the ramble on that intro quote, I know. But that's how important I think that subject is. And it's the first of our golden nuggets from this book. The next one we'll talk about is Tony's ultimate success formula, then his trademarked Neuro-associative conditioning, or NAC, and lastly, we'll highlight the concept that repetition is the mother of skill. The ultimate success formula is originally from Tony's previous book called Ultimate Power. It's kind of funny. He refers to this formula as, quote, an elementary process for getting you where you want to go. I think this is a great way to highlight the difference between simple and easy. These two words mean very different things. This formula is extremely simple, but if it were easy, more people would be where they want to be in life. The formula says that you, 1, decide what you want, 2, take action, 3, notice what's working or not, and 4, change your approach until you achieve what you want. Simple, right? Unfortunately, most people struggle with every single step. Most people have no idea what they actually want in life. This goes back to programming. By default, we all just kind of do what we think we're supposed to do. What our parents did, what our neighbors, school, religion, and culture tells us to do, right? You can solve this problem by asking yourself quality questions. Action? Most people never take action, and we'll get into why in the next point. Oh, and by the way, I am not perfect either. I struggle with the same things as everyone else. So know that I throw myself in the bunch here. The big difference is that I, like you, am trying to take steps to better myself. Okay, we have to be willing to critically analyze what's working and what's not, and change our approach accordingly. This is tough because we're all narcissistic to a degree, and we want to believe that we know best. Here, just try to eat some humble pie and listen earnestly to the feedback you're getting. Believe me, again, I'm talking to myself as much as the next person. Then it's just a feedback loop. You act, analyze, adjust until you get what you want. Okay, so why do most people never take action? It's because they focus too much on how they're going to accomplish their goals. And because they don't have all the answers right now, let's face it, none of us do, they get paralyzed and never take that first step. Tony says that it's not important initially to know how you're going to get the result. What's important is to decide you will find a way, no matter what. This empowers you to take that first step, and then you figure out how on your journey. Let's talk about neuro-associative conditioning, or NAC. Again, the concept here is rather simple. Tony says that to change our behavior, we must link unbearable and immediate sensations of pain to our old behavior and incredible and immediate sensations of pain to a new one. Pleasure to a new one. Pain to the old one, pleasure to the new one. In the Start to Success formula, I talked about a friend's uncle, let's call him Unc, who quit smoking by snapping a rubber band on his wrist whenever he thought about having a smoke. Let's use this as an example, and then I challenge you to come up with a behavior you want to change and use this method. The first step is to decide what you really want and what's preventing you from having it now. This one's easy. Unc wanted to quit smoking, probably for health reasons, and the addiction was preventing him. The second step is to get leverage. Associate massive pain to not changing now and massive pleasure to the experience of changing now. The difficulty in changing habit is that the pain of bad habits is usually in the future, so we weight it much less than the immediate pleasure we get from our habit. One way or another, we have to reach a pain threshold. You know that breaking point where you say, I've had it? It's like the straw that broke the camel's back, whatever. And Unc did this by creating real physical pain immediately, snapping that wrist, right? By the way, I'm not suggesting you start hurting yourself, okay? This is just an example. But somehow you must create perceived pain of remaining where you are. Step 3, interrupt the limiting pattern is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of brooding over wanting a cigarette for who knows how long, Unc interrupted with a snap. Tony says you can do this by just jumping up and shouting something ridiculous when you start thinking of your old habit, okay? When you're in that pattern that he talks about. Step 4, create a new, empowering alternative. The key here is to make it positive, right? Empowering, he says. A lot of people, when they quit smoking, replace it with eating, for example, and they gain a bunch of weight, which, that isn't healthy either. So replacing it with walking or talking with a spouse, something like that could be empowering. Step 5, condition the new pattern until it's consistent. The shocker here is that you can do this mentally. If you rehearse doing the empowering alternative in your mind over and over, you create the association in your brain. This, by the way, is why visualizing success is so important. It's not woo-woo. It's not a waste of time. It is programming your brain for success, okay? And the final step, you probably guessed it, is to test it. Now, this can also be done mentally by imagining the situation that prompts the bad habit, and you can do it physically when it actually occurs in your life. If you find your old habit winning, review the process. Make sure you know what you really want, get leverage, interrupt, create an alternative, and condition. Remember this process, guys. With it, you can change anything in your life. All right, repetition truly is the mother of skill. As we've just learned, repeating something allows us to condition and reprogram our brain. This is one of the reasons I encourage you to never respond to something that anyone says, really, by saying, "Oh, I already know that." Instead, either say, "I've heard this before, but repetition is the mother of skill." Or, if you can, say, "I've already implemented this in my life, so I'm going to move on to something else." And that's the key here, okay? If it's something that's important to you, but you haven't implemented it yet, then repeat again until you do. All right, and that brings us to our summary. I truly hope you all embrace these concepts. And if you haven't read this book, just bump it to the top of your list right now. It is profound, okay? In summary, though, to get really whatever we want in life, we first start by understanding what we really want. Once we have that, we're ready, even if we don't know how we'll get it yet. Okay, the what over the how. Then we take action, fire, and adjust your aim as necessary. And last but not least, in fact, probably most important, the exercise. So answer these below, share them with whoever you want, but just the process of thinking through it and writing it out is huge. So number 1, what is a question you can challenge your behavior with? Number 2, what is a habit you want to create or break? And number 3, how are you going to reprogram your brain to accomplish that? I hope you all enjoyed this. Like I said, I love this book. It is extremely empowering. It is powerful. It is, read it right now. All right. Like I said, hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.